Brr. Oh man, here it comes. And I have to say, I'm actually really excited about this because now I can dust off my snowboard and get ready to start burning powder out here. Yo, what's good, everybody? It's Phil Honeyhawk here, and I am signing into you from what looks like the official beginning of the winter season. And unlike a lot of people, I actually like the snow and all that. And looking forward to going out into the mountains and meeting old friends and just having a good old time with that for the next couple of months. Hopefully this will be the beginning of a very snowy mid-Atlantic East Coast winter season. That would definitely make me happy. So I'd like to show everybody here something really interesting I came across on a discussion group of men's issues, and this is pretty interesting. So this is basically a description of how a knight's armor works, but somebody took it and decided to turn a meme out of it. And what we have here is how a white knight armor works. So you got this dude right here. He's armed. He's ready to go. And for those that are not in the know, typically people talk about white knights in a negative manner nowadays, where it's like there used to be this image of this valiant warrior that would go into the castle to kill the dragon and save the princess and all that good stuff. But in today's modern age and today's social construct, it's actually a lot of these ideas behind chivalry and the knight's code and all that are really kind of seen in a negative way. And I understand why. And I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of some of my thoughts on some of these things, like the different items on this and what they really mean and some of my views on it. So let's start off, obviously, with the top, with the head. Cognitive dissonance helmet. This allows Radfem Dogma to make sense to him. It also corrects his male gaze, so I'm not sure what that is, but I know what, I'm fairly familiar with cognitive dissonance. I did Psych 101 in college, but I'm going to go ahead and just give you the definition as defined by a website called simplypsychology.org, and it gives a pretty good definition. So cognitive dissonance refers to a situation involving conflicting attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors. This produces a feeling of discomfort, leading to an alteration in one of the attitudes, beliefs, or behaviors to reduce the discomfort and restore balance, etc. So, for example, when people smoke, the behavior, and then they know that it causes cancer, and they still do it anyway. So it's always about what's going on in your head, and the brain has a lot of things that it does without you really knowing about it. And to me, cognitive dissonance is really more, it kind of comes down to self-deceit, or like you're lying to yourself. So something's uncomfortable, so you're finding a way to justify your behavior, even though you know that it's probably wrong, just so you could be comfortable. And it really doesn't have anything to do with what reality is or what the truth is. So basically, in the case of a white knight, an example of that is trying to pursue a woman that has no interest in you, and you're really just doing it anyway, thinking that you may have a chance at some point. And it's definitely not attractive, and it can be quite disturbing, and it just, it's just not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the woman. It's not good for anybody. So that's a big problem, definitely, with a lot of men nowadays, how they have these illusions about how if they're going to do X and Y, it'll be Z, and Z will be, a woman spreading their legs for you or falling in love with you. And of course, in the real world, attraction and love is not that simple. And everybody always has issues with sometimes not quite getting the message. I'm guilty of that sometimes in my life, but this is an example of when it goes to the extreme and it just goes way out of control. So yeah, gentlemen, do not lie to yourself. Don't, you should be honest anyway with other people, but you really need to be honest with yourself, and don't succumb to cognitive dissonance. And really just try to be straight up with yourself and really think about, what's really right for you. And that would be the antidote to this. Magic breastplate allows him to swallow his pride and check his privilege. All right, that's one of the terms that really gets me riled up. I really hate that. I hate the idea of checking privilege. I mean, first of all, what privilege are you talking about? The privilege to be alive, the privilege to be a human being, the privilege to not starve, or is it really just saying like, oh, I have such more of an advantage than let's say women or another ethnic group, when really I feel it comes down to what you have in yourself as a person and what you are capable in your life. A Caucasian man who works in a auto shop, who maybe is a mechanic, isn't what I would call any more privileged than a Latino man doing a similar job. I really, sure, there's things like racism and other things that happen, but most companies are professional enough where at the very least you're going to be treated as an equal. And that could be applied in many facets of life. And I think the idea of checking your privilege, first of all, how do I check my privilege? Do I just not try to be successful and have good things in my life? What does that even mean? So if somebody tells me to check my privilege, I'm just going to tell them to check themselves. Don't worry about what I'm doing. So we're going to continue clockwise around this interesting looking costume here. The magic gauntlet and mace helps him dismantle the patriarchy. The patriarchy may be indeed just obsolete anyway. I don't think there's any reason for any particular person to try to make or break what the patriarchy is, which, if anybody doesn't know, that's basically the traditional man, woman, and child kind of family unit. Gay people are adopting kids, people are switching genders, there's all this stuff going on with that. And I think what the definition of a family is, it's changing in our society. And I don't see that being a problem as long as you're living your life and you're doing what you want to do and you're not forcing your beliefs or bringing harm upon another human being. Like, look, man, if you feel like you're a man trapped in a woman's body, or the other way around, and you want to establish a relationship and start a family and maybe even adopt, I mean, if you'll be a good parent, then I'd say rock on. Like, don't worry about what anybody's saying about that. So any idea of what people would think that they have to do as far as like protecting the patriarchy and all that, I don't know, man. I think that stuff is overhyped. I think people just need to relax on that end. Protective knee pad. Protects his knees when groveling at the feet of the nearest woman while apologizing on behalf of all men, past and present. I think there is some truth to that because, again, in today's social conversation, a lot of people expect a certain group. For example, I think white people are kind of getting a bad rap right now because of the history of conquest and everything else like that, slavery and all that. And I understand those are terrible things. What I would propose is that it's not right to hold somebody accountable for something that their ancestors did. And, we shouldn't have to apologize for the things that our great-great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers did. Like, for example, my family's from Puerto Rico, so therefore I have the blood of the conquistadores that, raped and pillaged the Americas. And sure, somebody could tell me, hey, you're from Puerto Rico, so that means that your family are descended from conquistadors and, you have to apologize on their behalf. No, I don't. And no, I shouldn't, because I don't believe in raping and pillaging unless it's, on an online video game. I'll do that all day long. I love playing Total War, but that's a fantasy. That's not my reality. And any person should be able to just be evaluated on the basis of their own merit and really not who their descendants are or what, ethnic background. It does happen and it's going to happen forever. I'm just saying, like, I think we should definitely try to push back against that. The friend zone shoulder padding, nice and soft for the heads of women who will never sleep with him. Oh man, I'm guilty of this. It's time for me to kind of account for myself now. So, I've always been kind of a sucker for a pretty face, I have to say. So I've had quite a few female friends who I were interested in sexually, who I wanted to be with. I didn't want to just be their buddy and their pal. that, you know, would lean on me and call me and cry to me about the boyfriends that would break their heart. And I'll be like, oh, it's okay. You're beautiful and all this other stuff. And I would tell them all these things and thinking that, hey, this is maybe my opportunity. And really just, I don't know, for some reason, like, it's okay to be a friend with a woman, but I don't think you're ever going to have that kind of platonic bond, like a friendship, like a bonding in the same way like a woman will have with one of her girlfriends and then still expect to be sexually, they expect there to be sexual attraction. Um, I have women in my life who are my friends, and it's actually, well, basically they're my exes. I mean, any woman that I end up in a relationship and that when the relationship ends, we end up being friends. You know, we're cool. I mean, there's still things I would still do for them, like if they had a family emergency or something. And, you know, every once in a while we meet and we smash, you know. And that I think is, in my opinion, I still think it's a valid friendship. I don't think anything less of the women just because I happen to sleep with them when I see them once in a while. I got a couple of women in my life who are like that. And it's fine. I still value them, but I don't see them as just like a buddy or a pal, like one of my homies, like one of my bros or whatever. I think people get that thing mixed up, and a lot of guys don't really realize. I mean, you could do stuff for a person out of friendship, but just don't expect that to automatically lead into a romantic kind of thing. You know, if you're interested in a woman and you're sexually attracted to her, you're not really, you know, interested in being her friend, at least not in the beginning anyway. And you're actually, again, going into that whole cognitive dissonance then where you're lying to yourself and you're lying to her. So, you know, it's not good. And that energy resonates from your heart, man. And women will pick up on that and it's going to creep them out and you're going to look like a clown, dude. All right. The SJW sword. Yes. Cuts through entitlement like a hot knife through butter. Yeah, that's funny. The whole social justice warrior thing. First of all, unless you're out there actually fighting and you know, having a conflict and genuinely like boxing with somebody or something like that, or fighting them with weapons, you're not a warrior. You know, when you stand around with signs above your head and you're just yelling, that's not being a social justice warrior. Being a social justice warrior would be like when you had the civil rights era and people of color were not allowed to be in the same restaurant as Caucasians. People of color go in there and they refuse to leave, and then they get their asses kicked. Or they, you know, even a peaceful protest to me is still combative in a way because your weapon is peace. You're not putting yourself down to the level of violence, but you're still fighting in a way. So fighting to me is what a warrior is all about. So yeah, SJW sword, that whole thing is an absolute lie. And this guy thinks he's cool because he has a sword, but it's not sharp. It has blunted edges, and if you swat it at it or hit anything with it, it'll probably break apart. So fuck all that. And I'm not sure how to say this, so pardon my bad French or whatever it is. Asakun leggings gives him additional speed to run and rescue any feminist in danger of engaging in a logical debate. Yeah, sure. I guess there's people who try to stick up for women in a debate and try to be like, no, you're wrong and all that. And again, they're not doing it because they want to be their friends. They're doing it because they want to fuck them. So, you know, it's, if you're a heterosexual man, I don't know anything about gay men or how the dynamics of gay men or gay women are, but, you know, that just sounds like, again, you think that you act in a certain way is going to make someone want to have sex with you, and you're lying to yourself. Again, going back to this thing. So that's what a white knight is in today's age. It's unfortunate because I'm very interested in things like the Knight's Code and chivalry and all that. I'm a big fan of the Middle Ages. I read about the Crusades and all that stuff. And basically a lot of these behaviors come from what was originally maybe like the Knight's Code, where you were a warrior and it was not only was it your responsibility to fight on behalf of your lord, you also were expected to have a better standard of behavior in terms of how you treat other people, especially women. And back in the day when everybody was barbarians and hacking each other with swords, this kind of stuff might have been necessary. But I'm going to show you what a knight actually looks like. And here's a pretty cool example of this. This appears to me, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong. One of the Knights of the Templar from after the Crusades. All right, so do you see a white knight here? I mean, first of all, this guy's been through some shit. I mean, look at all these tattered clothes and look at all the rust and the grime and all the cuts on his armor. Like, there's dents in his helmet. Like this, everyone, is what a knight really looks like. That basically means that, you go through shit, but you still have pride in yourself. You still have a code of honor that you abide by. You are not dishonest with yourself. You are honest with other people and you try to help people, but you also try to protect yourself too. My man's not just walking around with the cloth. He's got his armor, he's got his chainmail. He's got his plates. He's got his helmet. So you can serve others, but you can also protect yourself and value yourself and be proud of who you are and what you could provide to this world. And that includes the females that you interact with, gentlemen. I mean, you don't have to be a chump. If you want to help people or you want to help women, really do it just for the sake of helping people. If you want to meet a girl and you want to, smash and you want to get to know her, you need to learn how to turn her on, man. You need to get her, you need to get her heart racing and you need to get her panties wet, man. All this stuff about just doing favors for women and all that, like, it's just basically like being a slave. You're doing something and not expecting anything in return. So just make sure before you befriend a woman or anybody in your life, make sure you really know what you're getting into and you're really getting what you want out of the relationship, because it's okay to be selfish when it comes to valuing your time. Your time is very limited. You don't know how much time you have, so make sure you spend it with people who appreciate you. And that's all I got to say about this subject. Please follow this page. If you want to support me, just go ahead and subscribe and like this video. And good luck with the winter weather, all my East Coast friends. Peace.